What's going on, everybody? Welcome back here to another episode. I am joined today by Jeff Zylstra of UpTrade, a premium crypto brokerage. We're going to get into everything Jeff's got cooking on that end, get some great takes on the market. I know you've been around the conferencing horn as well, so I definitely want to get some thoughts on that front, man. But it's a pleasure having you on. What's going on, Jeff? How you doing, man? Oh, you're muted.
I'm doing really well, thanks. Cheers.
Awesome, man. Awesome. How was the conference?
Yeah, it was incredible. It was good to get on the ground in Tokyo, get amongst it, and really see what the Japanese are doing to adopt the XRP ledger, and speak to fellow sort of builders in the space, building on the XRPL, and yeah, it's just the vibe at the XRP conferences are just phenomenal.
For sure, man. Yeah, I was actually just talking about XRP this morning on my Breakfast Club show, and it's amazing, kind of a blessing in disguise, I think, when the whole lawsuit came down back in 2020 with Ripple in the United States. I mean, back then, obviously, and going through it was brutal, but like looking back now, it kind of forced Ripple to go do business outside the United States. They've made some great connections, to your point now, across Asia, whether it's Japan or South Korea, but also in the Middle East. I saw some news actually come out this morning more about the Middle East and Ripple making some plays there. They opened its expanded Middle East and Africa headquarters now in Dubai's DIFC, with plans to double its regional team in the UAE, which it's kind of a blessing in disguise, man. It forced them to go do business outside the U.S. It's a U.S. company, but they've really done some damage outside the U.S. now, especially during those 4 years, man. But what's your take on that?
Yeah, well, obviously the SEC lawsuit was not an ideal situation for investors, right? But it really separated the evangelists, like the people that are here for the long term, the people that see the long term vision, from just the tourists, right? And obviously was not an easy time in the media, and not an easy time on X, being an XRP investor. But at the end of the day, if you put the work in and you're consistent over time, you'll be surprised how far you can go. And they've acquired, in that period of time, over 75 licenses globally. There's talk of Brad wanting to capture 14% of the global Swift volume within a few years. That's $150 trillion annually. Everything they're doing with Ripple Prime and all the tokenized treasuries. It's just that they are winning on every battlefront that they approach. It's just incredible, and they saw it before everybody else, right? Crypto has always been the great disruptor, right? And that's the narrative that everyone's sort of gone with. But that in the real world and real world applications, it doesn't really slide that way, right? So I think they kind of realized, hey, we need to work with these guys. We need to integrate. We need to provide value via the XRPL. And how can we do that? So they've been extremely strategic with their top-down approach. So I think the path is clear, and they're building the road for the future. It's incredible.
Yeah, man. Some massive acquisitions last year too, which you kind of spoke to as well. And yeah, you know what? I think they're a company too that now has the ability to kind of recreate and reinvent themselves, right? Like they've withstood the test of time in the cryptocurrency market. They're one of the OGs. And now, as like the market itself is kind of evolving, I can see them kind of being a big player in a lot of different pockets of the market, whether it's cross-border payments, remittances, tokenization. I know one of the big news stories that came out last year was they're tokenizing real estate over in Dubai. So a big partnership there. But also this AI boom and the agentic economy. And we're hearing all these rumblings now of there's going to be more robots paying robots than humans paying humans potentially down the line, which is wild to think about, but it makes a lot of sense, man. But yeah, we have a lot of XRP listeners, and so I'm glad we're actually kicking it off with this. But what do you think their biggest opportunity is? Do you think it's still in cross-border payments, or do you think it's something different, or how could they kind of navigate this space?
Yeah, well, I think the two big things for me that really stand out about where XRP are going, number one would absolutely have to be the agentic layer, like you were mentioning. You know, AI, they're going to need bank accounts, right? They're going to need the ability to be able to transact with each other autonomously, right? It creates this whole digital economy, but they're not people, right? They can't walk in and show their ID and provide bank statements and things like this. So this will allow them to have permissionless cross-border payments. This is like between companies, between governments, for commerce, all sorts of incredible things, right? But the one thing that because I was in Paris as well for Paris Blockchain Week, and the number one thing, sitting down with Swiss bankers, sitting down with regulators from all of Europe, right? The big thing, they want to utilize the technology, right? But they don't want all the transactions to be visible, right? Because that's the beautiful thing about banking and private banking and all that sort of stuff is, you can transact with somebody and it's privacy, right? So XRP bringing a privacy layer to the XRPL is a huge thing, right? So if Goldman Sachs moves $10 billion in treasury positions on a public ledger, every competitor can see exactly what they're doing in real time. So no bank is actually ever going to do that. So, on April 14th, just recently there, Ripple integrated zero knowledge proofs onto the XRPL. So that is just simple proof that the technology can move forward compliantly and work with the banks. And as it can be adopted as a top-down approach, then, users, people who have traditional banking will be able to get access to leverage the XRPL as well and the XRP token. So this is a huge move, right? So instead of needing to capture the whole market from the bottom up, you need to acquire millions and billions of users. Well, why don't we just partner with the biggest players in the space, and by virtue of that, we can take over the market. So it's a 4D chess move.
100%. Smart business for sure. Love the breakdowns. We'll come back to kind of overall market. I want to get some other thoughts on just generally speaking the markets, Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. But definitely want to unpack what you guys got cooking up here at UpTrade as well, man. So yeah, give us the rundown. I know a lot of people maybe first time kind of hearing about what you guys got cooking over here, man, and super impressed by what you guys have done already for sure. Just in talking with you last few months or so.
Yeah, thank you. So, UpTrade is a digital asset brokerage, right? So think of kind of like private wealth meets stockbroking, but for crypto, right? We realize that, over time, people do need enhanced tools. People do need professional services for digital assets. And the reason being is, when I got into crypto back in sort of 2015, it was so easy to invest. You could make a million mistakes and you somehow still made money. There are only a few hundred tokens out there that you could actually purchase, and it was an extremely easy ride, right? You sort of fast forward it to more recent market cycles. There were a few thousand tokens, right? And then you fast forward it to today, and there's 54 million tokens out there. So for somebody coming into the space today, it is an absolute battlefield and almost like a lottery ticket, just trying to invest in crypto. So yeah, we understand that, and we have staff and brokers and analysts. Each client gets assigned practically their own professional team that's been in the space for years, right? They've seen it, they've been through the drops, they've seen every scam, every hack, every way, every narrative, right? So we tend to follow trends. We have a data-driven approach here. So we do over 200 hours of research for our clients per week, right? Combined across our research team. So we serve that up in the simplest and most actionable way possible, so clients can actually navigate this market better, right? Because you got to think now, you're trading against institutions, family offices, hedge funds, AI, algo traders, all this sort of stuff, right? So it does become a lot harder to win in crypto than it used to be, right? So, and we understand that a lot of people out there are living their lives. They're going to work every day, they're running businesses, they have families, and what they're doing is they're doing their research during their lunch breaks, they're doing their research on the way to work when they should be spending time with their family in the evenings. They're doing their crypto research, and they're losing. They're losing in the market, right? So, and even clients who have a lot of experience. A lot of our clients are crypto veterans, and they just say, look, this is all getting so complex with the risk of, third-party risk with exchanges, all the social engineering hacks, people getting their SIM swapped and everything. So we have a really, really secure system which allows clients to be able to trade quickly, safely, securely. They have the full professional services suite. And it's been really good. I've been in the crypto space since, like I mentioned, since 2015. I worked at the first digital asset broker in the world in 2016. I left there in 2021. We built that up to 60, 70,000 high net worth clients. And then I took some time off, and then I started UpTrade. So UpTrade is everything I wanted that previous business to be, but I get to put my own flavor on it this time. It's a less is more approach. We look after people really well. We pride ourselves on our personal interrelationships with them, and we just focused on giving our clients the edge to win. So
I love it, man. Yeah, that is so important in a world today now where when you go with some of these big exchanges, it's hard even trying to get a human to communicate with, let alone an AI agent or something. So for me, I think that's something that really would separate, what you have versus one of these other, exchanges out there that a lot of people know of. So I think it is, especially, for somebody who's like maybe just coming into crypto, but has investing knowledge, right? Like somebody coming in from TradFi, now that we're kind of heading into this world where crypto's being identified as, a real market and not just, this place that's crazy on the playground over there. That's what people kind of expect, right? Like, they can walk into an office or at least, pick up the phone and call, their person who's managing their money. So are you finding like, is that kind of your ideal client right now? Like describe the ideal person this kind of fits right now in terms of your business.
Yeah, it's a great question. And look, exchanges are great. I use exchanges myself. We plug into every major exchange and OTC provider in the world. So you can do everything in one house, essentially, without needing to send your personal information to everyone. But the ideal client, it really depends, because we deal with people from all walks of life, right? We deal with people who just got their IRA or their retirement savings, and they just want to make their first investment for the long term. We deal with active traders, swing traders, people who come in and they actively trade the markets. And we deal with people, starting their journey all the way to crypto veterans, people that have been in the space longer than me, right? People are just looking to diversify their risk. They use exchanges themselves, but also they understand that one is a very scary number, right? Having one place for your crypto, having one exchange, right? Because that's a single point of failure, right? So at the end of the day, we have clients who come in, and some of these big whales, they just say, Jeff, I only want to speak to you when I want to send you money to sell, or if I want you to buy, make large purchases. And then we have some people who, like I said, just beginning their journey. And we got some people kind of in that middle band as well. They kind of, look, Jeff, I've been in crypto for 6 years. I've run it back. I've seen my portfolio 100x, and then I've seen it come all the way back down again. I don't want to make the same mistakes again. So I want to see how you guys can help me. If I have a team behind me, I want to understand how to reduce my stress, allow me to sleep at night, and give me a better chance to win in this market.
So when you're talking like to an individual client, do you get to kind of know them as a person, like their risk level, where they are at their kind of stage of their investing journey? Like how deep does it go? And like, explain that process a little bit for people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, understanding people's journey is a key part of what we do, right? Because if we fail to understand their journey, and understand where they're trying to go, it's impossible to really help someone, right? So, you kind of got to understand, all right, what mistakes has this person made? Are they holding 150 tokens from previous market cycles that have been rinsed, that have no chance of coming back? Maybe we can put some actual factual data, on-chain data, that shows them, that separates the marketing from the actual facts, right? So everything we do here is data driven. It's all factual. It's not based off my feelings or my analyst's feelings. We literally show people the writing on the wall, right? So yeah. And I guess when it comes to guiding them and helping them, it's a lot of it's about educating them, about giving them a framework to understand risk management, to be able to understand things like, because so many people are trying to catch tops and catch bottoms, and so many people are trying to, they're feeling greedy in the market, or they're feeling fearful. A lot of it is teaching them the psychology of trading and investing so that they can use that more effectively in the markets. So it really depends. Some clients come in and they do their own thing, and some clients come in and they go, hey, look, this is my strategy. Can you poke some holes in it? And some people come to us and say, look, I've got no strategy. I keep losing money. Can you build a framework for me?
Yeah, yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, and I think a lot of people, it gives them peace of mind knowing that they don't have to worry as much. I think every investor is a little different. Some crypto people want like that full hands-on, other people are like, hey, I like the idea of out of sight, out of mind a little bit, so I don't make the same mistakes I've made in the past. Or like you said, personally, I'm like this. I've got my crypto spread out in all different kind of pockets, some in retirement funds, some in a little bit in centralized exchange, other things in, more longer term buckets, which, I think it's good to have a variety of different areas, like where you have your money spread across. I think you kind of spoke to that too. And you don't want to have it all in one place. Not in today's world, for sure. Right. But, hey, speaking about the overall market, like what do you think? What do you think of the overall market right now? It's kind of boring. I mean, are we still in a bear here for the next 4 or 5 months? What's your take?
Well, it's an interesting situation because obviously, since the war started, we have seen extreme volatility across all markets, right? We are leaning towards a bit more optimistic than earlier this year. We were a little bit bearish earlier this year, but the volatility has sort of reduced significantly. Equities, the S&P, tech stocks are really picking up again. There's a high chance of the Fed cutting rates pretty soon, with the new Fed chair coming in shortly. So look, I think there'll be a bit of volatility around that Fed chair. There always kind of is, if we put it up against a chart whenever we see a new Fed chair arrive. But look, we've been trending up for a little while. Confidence is coming back into the markets. If we can get some of those macro factors moving, such as rate cuts, then we can put a pin in that war. Then I don't see a reason why crypto can't really start to get some momentum here.
I agree, man. I think it's always a challenge to kind of think about, hey, is this the same thing as last cycle? Are we going to be seeing some things that are different? What's your take on the whole 4-year cycle thing? Like, have things changed dramatically since the institutions have come in? What do you think?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think the 4-year cycle has so far proven to be valid. But in saying that, the volatility has, especially with Bitcoin, has been significantly less so far, right? Where we likely won't see those massive 80-90% plus drops, over a bear cycle, right? We have more institutional buying pressure on, especially assets that have ETFs, and Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, and whatever else gets one soon. So that tends to sort of prop up those prices, because people, this is how wealth's made. Wealth is literally made in bear markets. And I think people are starting to realize that. So at the end of the day, we won't see the crazy volatility that we've seen in the past. But, if we're talking about micro caps and small cap altcoins, yeah, they'll probably get obliterated along the way. But, like I mentioned earlier, when there's 54 million coins across every blockchain right now, we do need a purge. We do need to see those things go to practically zero to let the phoenixes such as XRP and the others to really rise from the ashes, so we can have a clean slate for a decent bull run across top tier S tier assets, right? So
Yeah. Speaking of outside of Bitcoin, I know you're into XRP. You were pretty early into XRP too, right? Relatively.
Yeah,
What
really early.
yeah. What other how early? I'm curious.
Yeah, around the same time I got into crypto, so around 2015. So
Oh wow. Okay.
yeah.
Is that highest conviction altcoin? Or do you like anything else out there?
I'd say it's definitely up there. It's definitely in my sort of top three, top four. I have Bitcoin holdings. I'm big into XRP. I kind of, it's funny because I was big into XRP early, then all this stuff kind of happened in 2021, and I was a little bit shaken by it. I must admit. I
Yeah.
did still hold though. I just didn't keep my eye as closely as I should have on it. I should have doubled and tripled and quadrupled down, but is what it is. You can't win them all. We're really big at the moment on Hyperliquid. Our analysts called Hyperliquid at a few dollars, and that has been one of the best performing tokens during this downturn and the volatility. We're huge on Morpho as well. I actually had the pleasure of meeting the Morpho founder and CEO over in Paris. A really, really cool and smart guy. That's Paul Frambot. But yeah, Morpho is honestly, it is the DeFi protocol. Especially all the stuff that's happening with Aave and all the issues with DeFi the last few weeks. With hacks and just the exploits and things like this. Morpho has really stayed the course, and we're a huge advocate from a fundamental perspective.
Yeah, they're the big player when it comes to lending, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and they I think what's really helped them recently is didn't they kind of get into a big partnership with Coinbase as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Morpho. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the great thing about Morpho is they're a France-based project. So in France, the regulations are some of the highest in all of Europe, right? So they've got really good regulatory controls in, and this is a compliant project. So,
Yeah,
obviously not everything in crypto is safe, but they're not operating out of some unregulated place and doing unregulated things. They're actually they're actually doing the right thing. So
I'm with you on Hyperliquid too. Opened up a good
Mhm.
position under 30 on that one. I think that's going to be a horse next cycle. It
That's
feels like in
right.
crypto, man. It feels like in crypto, like if you can catch that first big run up an altcoin has, that tends to be the best run up. And I know we're still early, but you put it this way: you don't want to miss the first run. When you could find these things early, take advantage of it. I look at some other assets like Canton. I don't know how you guys feel about this one. This thing kind of burst on the scene recently. Almost a
Mhm.
top 15 asset, which is kind of crazy. What's your take on the
Yeah.
RWA space? For me, it's a little harder to kind of navigate in terms of how to invest in it because everybody's kind of playing there, and then you've got all these
Mhm.
layer ones, and then you've got Ondo and Canton and Plume and like all these ancillary pieces. I find it hard to kind of navigate it, but I definitely have exposure toward it. But what's your take on the RWA space?
Yeah, look, the RWA space, there's two issues with it, right? And you mentioned one of the biggest ones. It's so fragmented. There isn't really a clear market leader that's actually gaining clear momentum, right? You have there's quite a few players in the space, and it's still a narrative. It doesn't sound like it's really taken off yet. But the issue is as well, it's I'll tell it straight. It's just not that sexy. It's not that exciting.
Sure. Yeah.
It's kind
Yeah.
of buying. It's the truth. Until there's a significant amount of capital that flow onto these things. It's just one of those things that remains in the background. There is an interesting project that are doing something really interesting with RWA. They're doing it with because trading cards and all that sort of stuff is huge right now, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're tokenizing trading cards. You can send it into their vault, and you can trade your card. Some cards are worth like $100,000, right? So you can actually trade it as an NFT. You can redeem it. You can do all sorts of cool stuff with it. So it's a very interesting project. And I think their Q1 earnings were like $16 million, and they're like a 20 mil market cap. So highly speculative play. But that's an RWA project. I think it's called the ticker is cards. So yeah, check it out. It's interesting.
What's the ticker on that one again? I know the people are going to want to go digging on that.
Cards.
Spell it.
CARDS. CARDS.
CAVS.
No, it's cards, like literally cards.
Oh, cards. Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha. Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's one of
Collector.
those like do or die plays. It'll either be an excellent investment or it'll go to zero. But it's called Collector Crypt. Yeah.
Gotcha,
So
man.
it's an interesting project, and it's following a current real world trend around real world assets, and it's assets that have outperformed the S&P 500, and everything else in the last few years. So yeah, it's worth keeping. I'd say RWA is interesting, but it has to be something that's interesting and it's kind of tied to a current, narrative outside of crypto, and this is something that's doing that. So
Yeah. Jeff, man, I love it, man. Throwing some alpha out there for the people toward the end of the podcast. So where can people, get started with UpTrade? Looks like you guys have a free consultation. So if somebody's interested out there.
yeah, exactly. So obviously, like I said, we're not for everyone, and yeah, we want to make sure that anyone who comes to us and wants to have a chat with us, that they're right for us first, and we're right for them. So yeah, people have the ability to go to our website. They can book a free consultation with a professional crypto broker. Just a 15-minute chat, and just see if it's something that can help them win in the markets.
Awesome, man. Hey, I really appreciate the time. We'll definitely get you back on the Crypto Breakfast Club X Spaces, and probably do another podcast here, man. This has been fun. It's been cool hanging out with you and talking shop, man.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, if you guys want to check out UpTrade, there is a link down below in the description. Go check it out. That is my referral link. You can go check it out. Link down below. Appreciate everybody for listening, and make sure you guys give the video a thumbs up. And if you're listening over on Spotify or any of our places over there on the audio side, make sure you guys give us a 5-star review. Appreciate that. And we'll see you guys all in the next one. Take care.